Uh-huh. You had to
The
find a
second
place.
day we found a minion. And walking out, a friend of ours from Scranton, he was like drinking a cup of coffee with a golf shirt.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay. Good morning, Harvey. Chag Chashev Sameach, wherever you may be. Okay. Okay. Our learning sponsors, Isaac and Evan Blachor, in memory of his sister, Chaya Rachel Bas Isser, friends of Leonie Meiselman, Leah Sabra Bas Chanuk Zundel, friends of Mala Skotsky, Moshe Zelig Ben Mordechai, Martin Lipman and family, in memory of his wife, Malka Chana Bas Pinchas, friends of Herb Jeremiah, Tzvi Ben Zev, friends of Sam Coleman, Shmuel Ben Yaakov, friends of Gideon Lazinski, Mordechai Shlomo Ben Meir. A month of learning, Andrea and David Donley, in memory of her mother, Edel Sinabat Shimshon, friends and students of Rabbi Shalom Kornblum, Rav Shalom Ben Mordechai. Karen and Mel Haller, in memory of her father, Yosef Eliezer Ben Tzvi Hirsch. Mark Scher, in memory of his father, Mordechai Ben Menachem Manus. Mark Linder, in memory of his nephew, Eretz Paul Ben Sirlas. A week of learning by Susan Fuchter Kramer and Shelley Kramer, in memory of her mother, Bela Bat Yeshaya. Ruth Kosman, in memory of her husband, Shmuel Ben Yitzchak. We have today being the 4th of April, right? Okay. The following days of learning by Morty and Millie Rosner, in memory of his father, Kalman Ben Nassim Zanville, by Martin and Marla Lippman, in memory of his mother, Frumat Pua Bat Abraham, and that is it. Shamas having Aliyah, Cranker of Fear Belt Yeshir Shamat Leah, Mechob Ben Israel, a good Gaben Shtian. Okay. Ruvain, do you need a Gemara text to take with you today for?
No, I haven't.
You have?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I am going to have a start on the very bottom of Hey Amud Beis. Okay. Hey Amud Beis. Right. So it'd be 5B3 or 5B4, whatever the art scroll is. Right? Okay, and then we'll go to today's Gemara. But I want to just quickly point out at the end of the Amud on Hey Amud Beis, okay, there they raised the question. It gave an alternative discussion. Rav Yosef Rahman Amar Yatzami Beitov Al Ish Acher, right? Right. In other words, again, citing the Yibum situation. V'yatzami Beitov Al, right? Then Delo Delistere Lebeite. V'at amart t'chabem nami yibumi. Okay, it says not to destroy the household. All right, and here you say that maybe she should go ahead. That the brother-in-law should do yibum. Amar le Abaye. So now Abaye comes back with his response. Ela me'ata la'acher lo tinaseh. To another she should not marry. Delo tistare lebete, that she shouldn't ruin his house. Okay, in other words, even the other individual's house. Okay, never mind just the shouldn't ruin the Yabam's house. Okay, now what we're going to see as we continue in a moment in the Gemara is that because of the word acher, okay, the Chazal look at that within a negative context, okay? And so the question is going to come up, even if you allow her to marry, okay, to, let's say, a third guy, all right, who would be really, literally another guy. Isn't she going to remarry, isn't she going to ruin his house as well, if given her history of behavior or her reputation or whatever? So the Gemara is going to come back, and we're going to see that shortly in today's daf, okay, implying that if during her second marriage she had changed her wanton ways, so to speak, okay, then in that case, it's less of an issue. Okay, so now we're going to come back. Amarle, right? So he says as follows. And now we're on the top of Vav Amud Aleph, right?
This is Rav Yosef.
Okay, right. Okay, so what happens? Right, so he try again, Rav Yosef coming back to Abai. Mika Ramin and La, Ale Baal Korche. In other words, would we may force this fellow to marry her, such a woman? Okay, is that the case? Ikeda Amre. And there are those who phrase this in another version, in another manner. Amar Rav Yosef. So here again, it clarifies that it was Rav Yosef responding to Abaye, namely, Hakatuv Kra'o Acher, that the text calls him another. Okay, but they're going to take a pejorative understanding of the word Acher here. Okay, She'en ben Zugo Sharishon Shezeh Hotzi Rish'ami Beito. That he's saying basically that you could say that since he's not related or part of the first husband with whom she misbehaved, so to speak, that maybe that's going to be the reason that we would allow this brother-in-law, this Yabam, to marry her. What happens? Shezeh hotzi rish'a mi beito, v'zeh hechnis rish'a letoch beito. But are you going to have a situation where the first husband, expelled her from his home because of her wicked behavior, and then you're going to allow, and then the brother-in-law, the Abam, is going to bring her into his house, even though she's got this reputation or has behaved in this wicked manner, right? V'im amart yabem nami yabume. And if you're going to argue, that the Yabam should be able to do Yibum and not be expected to do Chalitza, as what our Mishnah said he needed to do, what happens? Amar le Abai. Abai would respond, Elame ata, but from here, what can we learn? Niseit la'acher umeit below bani. If she married another, in other words, the second, the Yabam, and he died without any children, what happens? Lo tijabem, then she would not do Yibum with another brother-in-law. The hakatuv kara'o acher, because why? Because the text is calling him acher, another. In other words, they're giving him a question of, is there something wrong or bad by him having taken her into his residence, right? Gabe the high, regarding that one, meha b'shem tov hava kaima, but his argument is what happens, but that by living with the second husband, what happens regarding him, she has behaved herself, she's repented or whatever. In other words, that the implication seems to be as if she only acted that way with the first husband because of his behavior, his relation with her, so on and so forth. But with the second husband, who could have been the brother-in-law, he could have treated her differently, and therefore she behaved differently. That comes back to the whole question where we've seen elsewhere the whole question of Sota tells us, that if he doesn't behave properly, the Sota water doesn't work. It will not do its miraculous intervention. That's number one. Or elsewhere, as we're going to see in a different Mishnah, if for some reason he behaves again in an inappropriate manner, such as having relations with her on the way to Jerusalem to bring her for the sota test, there again, therefore, in that situation also, the water, okay, is not going to do its miraculous thing. Right? Okay. So we'll get to that shortly, right? So what happens? Rav Amar. Rav is going to give and bring a different explanation. Kal v'chomer. He wants to say we can learn this in a different manner. Okay. Im ne'esra b'mutar la. Okay. If she was forbidden with regards to the one who was permitted her, namely the first husband, ba'isur la, regarding the second husband, okay, who's we would think would be forbidden, right? Because she's a brother's wife, right? Lo kol shekain, all the more so, right? Amar le Abai. Okay, so Abai then disagrees again. Ela me'ata. Okay, if that's the case, if you're going to use that kal v'chomer, what about the following situation? Okay, Kohen Gadol shekidesh et ha'almana umet. So we have a situation where the Kohen Gadol unlawfully, okay, marries a widow, and then he dies without children. Okay, so in other words, he shouldn't have married her lechatchila. Okay, but when he does marry her, the marriage is tofsin, is still held. Okay, and he dies. V'yesh lo ach kohen hedyat, and he has a brother, okay, who is a normal kohen, who is permitted to marry an almanah. Okay, lo tijabeh. Okay, Abai is arguing he should not then perform yibum. Right? Im ne'esra b'mutar la. Okay, why? Because if right, she's forbidden, okay, to that first husband. All right, be'isur la lo kol shekain. Okay, for one who is forbidden to her. Okay, namely the second Kohen, the Kohen Hedyad brother, right? In this case, all the more so. So Abaye is trying to build on that kal v'chomer. Now we're going to see a challenge to that. Okay. So the Gemara says, Ne'asra, you're saying forbidden. Ha'asira v'kaima. Okay, but what happens? What did that Kohen Gadol do? She was forbidden to him l'chadchila as an almana, but he nevertheless married her, and that marriage remained a valid marriage. All right, that's the point. So in other words, he's challenging him and trying to make that kal v'chomer. What? Well, who becomes a halal? Now, only the progeny would be. Well, we'll see. Okay, mutar la, he's permitted her. Asur lahu. Okay, she's forbidden to him. Okay, ela eshit kohen. So rather, he's suggesting the following: if you really want to make a kal v'chomer on this is how it has to be. Ela the following: eshit kohen shene ansa umet. Okay, the wife of a kohen who was raped. Okay, and therefore she is forbidden even to a regular kohen. Right? And what happens? And he dies without progeny. V'yesh lo ach halal, and he has a brother who is a halal. Okay, in other words, there is no prohibitions on him to marry this woman whatsoever. Lo yabem, they should not do yibum. Okay, imne esra b'mutar la, because in that situation, if she's forbidden, right, to him, to the first husband, because she was raped and he cannot remain married to her, must divorce her, be'isur la lo kol shekain, and therefore for the halal, in that case, Therefore, she should be forbidden to him all the more so. Okay. Okay. Now, so what happens? So this leads us then to the following: Ones b'Yisrael mishra shari. But we say that when it was a situation of rape in regards to an Israelite, the wife is still permitted to her husband. V'gabe dahai, and regarding the halal brother, right? Miha leka isura. Regarding him, there is no prohibition, because as a halal, okay, none of the limitations of a kohen apply to him. Okay, so we finished that whole discussion, and it leads us now to a new Mishnah. Okay, what does our new Mishnah tell us? Remember, we've said that she would be prohibited, okay, from eating truma. Okay, so now the Mishnah is going to sort of continue that. And remember, back again, we've talked a number of times of how originally all the Mishnayot were together in one section, and then all the Gemara came afterwards. And then only later, when it was printed, did they do Mishnah Gemara, Mishnah Gemara.
Like we have Mishnayos now.
Like we have,
Mishnayos.
no, like we have the format of the Gemara today. Okay? I think it was Family Bromberg. Okay? I think that was the name. All right, who were the first ones to print the Gemara in that format. They also were the ones, by the way, who set it up with Rashi on one side and Tosafot with the other. Okay? Okay, so what happens? Matnitin, says our Mishnah, ve'elu asurot mele'achol truma. Okay, so these are the following women. Were they to be married to a Kohen, would now be prohibited from truma. But we're going to see it's not just those who would be married, okay, in this situation. There are others examples. First of all, ha'omeret tme'a ani lach. If she says to her husband, the Kohen, I am tme'a to you. In other words, for some, either I was raped or I got something else. Okay? Right? Okay, or what happens? A second example. V'sheba'u edim shehi tme'a. Or witnesses came and said that she was raped. She was kidnapped by pirates and got raped. That would be an example of others perhaps giving the testimony. Right? I'm taking an easy case, right? Or another case, Vaha omeret eini shota, or she says, I won't drink. In other words, I'm not prepared to go through the sota test.
She says that the coin, she won't drink?
These are all cases of soda.
Right.
In the first case, which she says to me, only she admits and she tells him
Right.
that I was unfaithful. So there's nothing that we can do with the word.
Right. It's not, I'm not going to, right. It doesn't apply.
And the same thing, Shimon Adam.
Right.
Didn't say that she was consulted with somebody. And therefore, there's no test in the water. Right. That's why she remains also be truma forever.
Right. Okay. But that's, they want to understand it as if that she's clear as sota, as opposed to the case of saying tuma because of another reason. No, it's admitting that she had relations.
Right.
That's the point.
Right.
Okay, and it doesn't apply whether it was on her voluntary staff, okay, or question. All right, so let's go on. Vaha omeret, she says, eini shota, or I don't drink. Okay, or a third example, v'sheba'ala eino rotza lahashkota, or for whatever reason, the husband chooses not to bring her to Jerusalem and to require that she drink. Right? V'sheba'ala ba'aleha b'derech. And that's another case that on the way, okay, they did the thing. Okay, so that happens. Okay, who knows? Okay, right. So what happened? Nature took its course. Anyway, so the Gemara now says, Amar Rav Amram. He says, Ha milta Amar lan Rav Sheshet. There was this thing. In other words, this explanation, this whole discussion that was shared with us by Rav Sheshet. And here's the interesting side comment. Van lan einan mimatnitin. And he enlightened our eyes from our study of this, through our study of this Mishnah. Now, why was this comment significant? I think Art Scroll pointed out, or Torin, one of them, that remember Rav Sheshet was blind. Okay, right? But the implication was his amount of knowledge was such that he, in a sense, opened the eyes of his students in his way of explaining this scenario, this Mishnah. Okay, but from our Mishnah, he taught them something new. Sota sheyesh la'edim b'medinas hayam. What about a situation where the woman is considered a sota because there were witnesses outside of Eretz Yisrael who saw her have an affair, okay, with another man?
Meaning she had the affair outside of Eretz Yisrael.
Right, okay. Ein hamayim bodkimota, he said, that they, in that situation, bringing her to Yerushalayim and having her undergo the test of the sota it won't work. Okay. My Tama, what's the reasoning? The Amar Kra, because a pasuk clearly says, V'nistara v'hi nitma'a v'ed ein ba. Okay, it says she secreted herself and became tme'ah, and there are no witness. Okay. And we understood that is testimony, okay, that there's no one here that, in other words, locally, that can give testimony to her situation. To exclude here those that did know her. In other words, did know of her act of tuma, of defilement. Okay. And what goes on? And he illuminated our eyes from our Mishnah, the Katani, because our Mishnah taught and that witnesses came and indicated she had been defiled, right? Da'atu edim, that witnesses came. Emat, at what point? If we say that they came before she drank, zonahi, okay, then what would happen? She would be considered no different than a zonah. In other words, it would be a real act of adultery. And so she would be judged under those circumstances. Ella, excuse me, Ella libatar de shatai, but it was rather after she drank. Okay, that's when the witnesses came, right? I amat b'shlema ein hamayim bodkimota. And if you're going to say then that even after she drank, I'm reading that in, okay, that the water does not do its miraculous, okay, act of her survival and ultimately being able to have real progeny, right? Shapir, that's fine. Ela iamat mayim bodkimota. But if you're saying that the water is supposed to do its testimony, in other words, cause her to have this physical reaction. Okay, remember the Torah, if I remember correctly, says that her thighs and her stomach and all of this kind of thing, right? Tiglei milta lemafreya, desahade shakre ninhu. That if that's the case, it would be as if it would reveal after the fact that these are false witnesses.
Because the water worked.
Because if the water worked,
and the witnesses are saying she's tall.
right. In other words, here, if she survives the experience, then the miracle has occurred that she survived. And therefore that should prove that she is tahora. Okay, but here they're coming, as Ruvain's pointing out to us, and they're giving a different testimony. Okay, if it's after she drank, so that doesn't that imply that they're false witnesses? Amar le Rav Yosef. So Rav Yosef now responds, the olam emelach mayim bodkim ota. No, Rav Yosef says, no, we always hold that the water does its is a valid means of testing. Okay, let's put it that way.
Even where there are
Okay,
veils somewhere.
that's right. Vaha imur zuchut tolela. But here maybe we're going to give a different reason that she was able to survive. Okay, even with the testimony of the witnesses, because she has some special merit. All right. B'mai k'miflagei. So what are they arguing about then, Rav Yosef? Okay, and right. B'mit navuna, the Rebbe. Okay, with the idea that Rebbe says, even with a special zechut, ultimately she's going to deteriorate. Okay, namely, ditnan, as was taught elsewhere in the Mishnah, Rebbe Omer, he says, zechut tole b'mayim hamarim. That there are occasions where a certain merit, I'm going to use tola as holds up or delays, okay, the results of the bitter waters, right? Ve'ena yoledet, and she would not then give birth. Ve'eno mishbechet, and she doesn't improve. In other words, she doesn't become more attractive to her husband. Ella mit navavuna, okay, but she deteriorates. V'holechet, and continues lesof shehi meta ba'otam mita, and deteriorates to the point that ultimately later on she's going to die a similar kind of death to the woman who, so to speak, flunks the sota test. Okay.
It just delays it.
It's just the ways.
Permanently. It doesn't-
Just delays
it's not a
it.
permanent-
Right. What?
If she has chusim, it delays the
Okay.
results of drinking. But eventually she's gonna suffer and die.
That's true. That's the point. So that's why there's a machloket between Rebbe and the Rabbanan on that view. Okay, Rebbe is the one who holds that the zechut she has will delay it. The rabbis don't hold that. Okay, so you're arguing just as the Rabbanan did, correct? That okay, and who do you think the halacha is like? In that case, Rabbanan. Okay, so that's the point. So now what happens, right? Now we're going to come back to that question. Is Rav Sheshet going to hold like Rebbe, or is he going to hold like Rabbanan, right? So the Gemara continues to tell us, Rav Sheshet Savar, Rav Sheshet's of the opinion, Bein la Rebbe u Bein la Rabbanan, Havya mit navuha. That regard whether it's Rabbi or Rabbanan, ultimately, if she has some sort of zechut, she's still nevertheless going to deteriorate. But Rav Yosef Savre, Rav Yosef holds the Rebbe Havya mitnauva, no, right? The Rabbanan lo Havya mitnavunana. Okay, that according to the Rebbe, okay, she might, according to the rabbis, she would.
So one conflict here is they both agree that she'll die, but the question is in a different way, but still it's going.
It may not even be in a different way. It may not be at a different pace.
One's right away, one's a slow down.
One's right away and one is a slow, okay? And the way you would know that is you would see, according to the Torah, okay, if she's not tameh, if she's tahor, after going through the sota examination, the miracle part is not only does she survive, but ultimately she's able to get pregnant and have a valid birth with the husband. Okay, big difference. Okay, Okay, so what happens? Meitiv Rav Shimi Bar Ashi. So he's going to challenge again with the following. Rabbi Shimon Omer says, Rabbi Shimon, Ein zechut toleh b'mayim hamarim. Okay, the exact opposite we see of what Rebbe's view is. That even Torah study or even have tzedakah or anything is not going to save her from that. Okay, why? Ve'im ata omer zechut toleh b'mayim hamarim. And if you're going to say, right, that some merit is going to deter or delay, okay, the results of the bitter waters, what happens? Madche ota et hamayim bifnei kol hanashim hashotot. The result would be that this would, and I have two translations of madche or midache. One says diminish, the other says undermine. Okay, so I tend to think that the word undermine may be a little bit stronger message. Not that I'm saying the word diminish isn't the valid translation, but in other words, it would therefore make people question the validity of the entire sota process. Okay, of all those women who did drink. Va'atamot say shemra al hatahorot sheshatu, and therefore not only that would it not only undermine the process, but it would make a question as about those women who correctly survived the process, okay, and therefore were declared taharot, right? Vehein omrim tmeotani, and people would they say, oh, they must have survived, not because of the validity of the Torah process, but for some other reason. Okay, maybe they had some zechut or something, or maybe it's not a valid process whatsoever. Right? Ela shetala lehen zechut, and they would argue, oh, that's why they survived, because they had some other merit. Right? Okay, ve'im ita, and if it comes to that, yesh la edim, that she would have witnesses. B'medinat hayam nami, that would apply also if there were witnesses who claimed that she had a affair outside the country. Atamot says shemra al hataharot sheshatu. There too, okay, you would again bring a bad reputation to those who now had been declared tahara and had drunk. Vehein omrim tmeot hayu, and they would claim, people would say that they are tameot. Ela sheyesh lehen edim b'dinat hayam, or maybe the witnesses never came to testify, and that's why she survived, because there was no witnesses whatsoever. Okay. The Rabbi Shimon ka'amart. So you're saying this could have been the view of Rabbi Shimon. Rabbi Shimon midizachut lo talia, since Rabbi Shimon does not hold by Rebbe's concept of zechut as a way out, edim nami lo talu, then regarding witnesses who come from outside, also he would not hold by that approach. Right? Meitiv Rav. Rav, however, would challenge and say the following: Ve'elu shemin chotehen nisrafot. What about the fact that we say that therefore, as part of the sota process, they were to bring a mincha offering? Okay, what would those would not be valid offerings, and therefore they would have to just be burnt. Okay, ha'amart tme'ani. Okay, but what about the example when she says, "I am unclean, I am impure"? In other words, she's acknowledging clearly that she had the affair, okay, and is a sota, right? V'sheba'u la edim shehi tme'ah. Or what about the situation where other witnesses did come and said, we saw her have an affair with somebody, right? Da'atu edim emat. So that if the witnesses came, at what what point was that? Ilema mekame the Kiddush. Okay, if we're saying that it was before the mincha offering was put in the keli, in the container, all right, and therefore it became physically sanctified, okay? Because up to that point, if you had simply designated it as a mincha offering, but had not put it into the physical container, that mincha offering could be redeemed, okay? Because then it only had monetary sanctity, okay? But once it's put into the keli, into the container, then it has physical sanctity and it can't be redeemed, okay? So at that point, that's why it says, Ilema mekame de tikdush. If it's before it's gained physical sanctity, tepuk lechulin, take it and make it chulin. Ela lebatar de kiddush, but if it's done after it's been gained a status of physical sanctity, I amart b'shlema mayim bodkimota. If you're going to say that the water truly tests her, alma bat mikdash umakarevi. Okay, if that's the case, then that mincha offering is suitable for the mizbeach. Okay, and it's to be offered. V'chi kadosh me'ikara. And if it's originally earlier sanctified, shapir kiddush, then it is well sanctified. It's appropriate. Umishum hachi minchata nisrefet, and that's why, if it turns out that the witnesses came and did testify, then it's not a valid mincha offering, and therefore it has to be burnt. Okay. If the witnesses came and testified that she did have an affair, okay, then even having brought, okay, that mincha offering, okay, it's got to be destroyed, burnt, okay, right. Ela iamart ein hamayim bodkimot. But if you're going to say that the water does not do its appropriate examination, okay, tiglei milta lemafrei. Okay, this would therefore be revealing to us the situation in retrospective, right? The chikadosh me'ikara, because when that mincha offering was sanctified earlier,
It was a
right?
mistake.
B'ta'ut kadosh. Therefore, it was sanctified incorrectly, right? V'tepok lechulin, and then if it only had been sanctified monetarily, okay, one could redeem it from that, and it would become simply chulin. Okay? Now, going on. Amar Rav Yehuda midiskarta, he says as follows: Kigon shizinta ba'azara. He's trying to defend Rav Sheshet, and let's say, here's a little side story. Okay, let's say that they brought her to Yerushalayim, okay, and we're not saying that the witnesses came to testify that she had that affair with Mesha Pipik in the Galil. No, the witnesses are coming to say, no, she had an affair there, right there, while she was still waiting to drink in the temple precinct. Now,
Get one last thing.
okay, now the question we can ask is, how could that even happen? Was she left alone? Okay, no, the Gemara is going to tell us, right? The chi kadosh, right? Kigon shezinta ba'azara. The chi kadosh me'ikara. He argues, Rav Yehuda Midistra, to try to defend Rav Sheshet, because that sanctification was done properly initially.
Because she was into after.
Right. Shapir kadosh. It was an appropriate sanctification. Now Rav Masharshi is going to say, hold on, Rabbi Yehuda Midiskarta. Matkifla Rav Masharshia. How can you say that kind of an idea, that she had this sexual encounter while she was there in the Azara? v'halo pirchei kahuna milavinota. Right? These young Kohanim, they're the ones who are escorting her. Okay, and right? Shezintami pirchei kahuna atzman. He answers, no, she had the affair with some of these young Kohanim. Okay, now Rav Ashi gets him. And he says, Rav Ashi Amar, Kagon Shinitzra. So you're going to ask a question. How could she have had an affair with one of these young Kohanim? Okay. Kagon Shinitzracha lenikaveha da'atu pirchei kuna b'kipa talila. Okay, that she claimed she had to use the facilities. And when she was alone, she grabbed one of these young Kohanim for a quickie. Okay, that's what happened. All right. Is that possible? Would they have really gone into the cell or to the area, private area with her? Okay. All right. Rav Papa Amar. Rav Papa says, no. Says this is the case. Le'olam kida amrinan me'ikara. No, it's as we said initially. Udika amart. And as you said earlier, okay, if that mincha offering that occurred before, okay, it was physically sanctified, tepuk lechulin, remove it and change it into, redeem it and change it into chulin, okay, because it only had monetary sanctity and it can be redeemed. However, midirabanan, but from the rabbis, gezerah shema yamru, motzein mikli sharet l'chol. But we can't do it once it has been into the keli, that gave it physical sanctity, because according to the rabbis, they made a gezerah that says you can't take it from that utensil to make it chulin again. Now, Meitiv Rav Meri, he responds and challenges. Nitmeit minchata ad shelo kitsha b'keli. Let's say what happens if she became tme'ah. Okay, what's the status of that mincha offering before it had regained its physical sanctity by being put into the container? Harehi kechol hamenachot v'tifteh. Then it's like any other kind of mincha, okay, that only has monetary sanctity and it can be redeemed. Misha kadsha b'kli, but once it becomes physically sanctified when it's put into that container, right? Harehi kechol hamenachot. Then it's like any other inappropriate, I'm going to read, mincha offering, and what happens? V'tisoref, it must be burnt. Okay. Now going on, what happens says our text. Kidesh hakometz v'lo hispik lahakrivo ad shemet. What about another example where somebody sanctified the amount, the kometz, the amount of grain that was taken? Okay. Okay, and in that case, all right, that was not offered before the person, okay, for whom it was taken died. Okay, ad shemet hu or ad shemet he, until that man or that woman, they died before that kamitza, that amount of grain taken by the Kohen was offered. Harehi kechol hamenachot v'tisareif. There too, it's like any other kind of mincha offering, and it's not valid, okay, because it doesn't have a owner. Okay, thank you, Ruve. Okay, and therefore it's burnt. Okay, so what happens now? Karev hakometz. What happens if the Kohen offered that amount of grain offering, mincha offering? V'lo hispik le'echol shirayim ad shemet. Who or ad shemeta he? Okay. In other words, what's left over from that grain? Okay, the Kohanim get to eat. So what happens if the person died between the time of the offering and the time when the Kohanim was supposed to sit down and eat it. Okay, what happens then? Harehi kechol hamenachot. Then it's like any other kind of mincha offering, right? V'tochal sha'al hasafek. Okay, and what about then eating it with regards to the doubt? Bata mitchila kipra sfeka v'halacha la. Okay, in that situation, we says it comes, okay, as if it did beginning, right? And it brings atonement, all right, even in that doubtful situation, and they proceed. Now, ba'ula edim shehit me'ah. Okay, we raised that question when the witnesses came and claimed she's tme'ah, right? Minchata nisrefet. Before the Kohen did, right? Right? So what happens? That mincha is not valid and it has to get burned. Nimtsa'u edeha zomamin. Okay, what happens then if we say that those witnesses were found to be inappropriate, illegal, illegitimate? Minchat tachlein. Then we would say that mincha offering again reverts to be inappropriate, and therefore we said it can be redeemed. It doesn't have sanctity. Okay, edim zomamim ka'amart. You're saying that's the situation if the witnesses are found to be illegitimate witnesses. Edim zomamim kola itlahu. But in a situation of illegitimate witnesses, there is publicity, right? There's some voice, there's some knowledge in that case. Right? Tanya kivate de Rav Sheshet. And so the Mishnah teaches according to Rav Sheshet, velav mitama'a. Okay? And it does not indicate that she's tme'ah, tahora, but because it says tahora, velo sheyesh la edim b'medinat hayam. And not in a situation, even when she may have, the witnesses may be there such that they're coming from overseas. The Torah, okay, and when we say the Torah, velo shetalta lazachut, and again, not that she benefited from some other merit. Okay? Now, why? Because it says Torah, that she is the one. Velo sheyisu v'yitnu ba muzarot bilvana. Okay, all right. So what happens? Not that they, who's the they? The weavers would gossip, and they would talk one to another. All right, and they would not say. The weavers would not say when they would meet in the evening to do their weaving. They would not gossip and say, "Oh, so and so. I saw it in the Yazara the other day."
It's so commonly known.
People talk. All right. All right. So just to finish up a little bit, for Rabbi Shimon Nehi. Okay, and what is Rabbi Shimon? Right. All right. All right. The Vav Lo Darish. Okay, he does not. Why does he not hold that the Zechus Toleh? Because he doesn't darshan the Vav. V'ha'ika yesh la edim medinat hayam lo shchicha. Okay, now I'll still be here tomorrow, Avram. Okay, all right. So tomorrow we'll start up the Zion Amud Aleph with the top there and.
Our question for some active, everybody. See you in 2 weeks.
Okay.
Have a safe travel.
Safe and good fat and a good yom. God bless.
We're gonna have coffee tomorrow morning?
What?
Coffee tomorrow morning?
You'll be here tomorrow morning.
I don't know. I won't be here. Ask, Truth, what- why
Okay.
won't be here?
All right.
I'll be gone, right?
So we'll see how far we get tomorrow. Okay, Avrami? Ah, okay. I'm on Zoom now. No, I didn't bring it today, Beth. Okay, so I will be on Zoom on Kolomoy. Question is at what time? Okay, because it's a longer davening. So it won't be exactly at between 8:15 and 8:30. It'll be maybe a little bit later. That's all. Yeah, almost.
Yeah, sure. No coffee, just cake. Yeah, look at it as a macaroon.
What? I will be at our oldest son who lives by BRS.
Oh, lovely. I think you're going to give us yourself.
No, our son from New York is coming down with his family. He lives in White Plains. He works in Manhattan, but he lives in White Plains. Very good. I told you what he does, right? Federal probation officer. Right? Right, I think you said it primarily.
One time, somebody in the audience came up to me afterwards, they said, I think he was. He worked in a prison system.
Yeah.
I was saying, everything we talked today about ADHD. Even the forest quality.
Yeah.
That's surprised me. I was going to. How much is running out.
All right, you're leaving today too, right? Have a good, safe trip. Enjoy the holiday. What?
Maybe it's Rosh Hashanah. Yeah.
When is it for Russia?
You prepared tomorrow's documentary?
Not yet.
I already did it. I
Yeah.
prepared it by mistake. So if you want, I can say tomorrow's up. The preparation.
Okay, well, I look it over anyway, because I always feel, even if I'm not doing it,
Right.
I need to, I want to
to
prepare to be able to appreciate.
I can say tomorrow here.
Okay.
Hey, all. Everyone be well.
Okay, have a safe trip, enjoy the place.
I got it crammed up.
Take care, take care of your efforts, too, will you?
It's a big
What
one.
is this?
You know, they're all, most of them have a lot of agave.
That's probably delicate. It's a very big guy. That's probably very delicate. The other one's not really so much. It goes off a little bit in that press. It goes into punishments, maybe can make it a little bit.
What is it?
Ryan, I think that's supposed to be the Paroka strain.
Here you go.
Yeah, because I'm guessing.
Oh, no, this is for clips, yes, well, this is probably here. Okay. Here, I guess here.
Right. Well, okay, because they don't have it. I mean, I'm just surprised that no one has addressed this stuff already. right, everybody. Take care. All right, have a good Yom Tov. Still see you tomorrow, so. all right? You need a ride back to Wolverton? Okay. You too.